Darayamandoi Boyinganday Yan Kumbandai Welcome. This is the sunrise sessions, but it's pissing the rain, so I came to the beach and sat in the car. The rain came on. There's a little bit of blue sky coming through, but it's very windy and very wet, so we just stayed in the car. Today we're going to talk about being selfish. Be selfish. Not just being selfish. Be selfish. And this was inspired by the story of a genius that left this world somewhere in the early 80s, and he was the inventor of many things, but one of the things that maybe a lot of you would know, I suppose inventor's not the right word, but that's in human terms we'll say inventor, the receiver and implementer of the geodesic dome. His name was Buckminster Fuller, Bucky Fuller, otherwise known as Bucky Fuller. And at one stage in his life, he went through many failures. He always had a curiosity, and he had skills of building and creating and imagining ways in which he could create things. And he went through many, again, failures, business failures, losing his purpose, trying things and they didn't work. And eventually he got to a point where he lost all his ways of making income in this world, and he decided he's going to kill himself. And so he went to, I think he was going to jump off a bridge, something like this. And as he was about to go kill himself, jump in the water or whatever he was going to do, he heard a voice. And the voice told him, your life is not your own. Everything that you've been through in your life, you're here to bring it in a way that serves the most people. So up until that point, all the failures in his life and all the things that he tried, he always felt different. He didn't fit in. He got removed from school. He was a genius, but he didn't fit into the limited systems on the earth. And so he saw these things as failure, and he had a wife and he had a child, and he felt like if he killed himself, they could get insurance, life insurance, and they would be better off without him. And this voice told him, your life is not your own. Everything that you've been through, I'm paraphrasing, it mightn't be exactly this. Your life is not your own. Everything that you've been through in your life was preparing you to give the highest service to others. And then he decided, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to throw myself off this bridge or whatever it happened to be. And then he went on to create amazing things. The geodesic dome would be the most well-known to me, maybe someone else knows. So that's Buckminster Fuller. And so up until that time, he wasn't, quote, spiritual or like getting guidance. So whenever he heard this voice, and he was at this point where he was going to end his life, it was so real and tangible to him, he just didn't even doubt it. He didn't even question it. He just went ahead and said, okay, this must be legit. I'm about to throw myself off this bridge, and this voice is telling me your life is not your own. All of the experiences of your life have happened. All the failures have happened so that you're here to serve people in the highest way. And so we call this video Be Selfish, with a capital self, S-E-L-F. And it's to see that your life is not your own. Your life is part of a grander self. And all the things that we think are failures, all the things that we think are that we have messed up or couldn't do or still haven't done, are all a perfect tapestry for us to be in service to the one self. And we don't, he was going to end his life because he felt like, he couldn't he couldn't go through this life, he couldn't deal with the failures, he couldn't, give his genius, where actually everything was preparing his genius. And so it's important for us to see, like, what has life prepared us for? Life has perfectly prepared us for something. And we have to become selfish, capital SELF, selfish, to be unselfish. We have to be solely focused on the grandest self in all its expressions, and know that that self, that grand self, that big self that contains all the apparent little selves, has perfectly prepared you to serve all the other parts of itself. So when we think selfish is like the little self looking after the little self, well, capital SELF, selfish, is the big self looking after itself by giving all the parts of itself, the little me's, a perfect piece of the whole that can serve the whole. And that everybody has a gift. Everybody has a part of this gift. And there's no one being that has it all, but every being has a part of it all. And every being has a piece to serve the all. Doesn't mean that you serve every being that ever was, but in essence you do. But in practicality, we have a blueprint. There's a unique, we keep sharing recently, there's a perfect divine blueprint that is projected in, through, and as your life, and anything other than that is a reflection of that, filtered through false beliefs. And everything that has ever happened in your life has prepared you, and is preparing you, and continuously prepares you, and opens you to what it is you are here to bring, how you are here to serve. So if Buckminster Fuller had have ignored that voice and jumped off the bridge, or whatever he was going to do, the things that he was here to bring would not have appeared in the world. And this voice said, your life is not your own. So this being selfish is the most selfless thing that we can do. It's taking a look. It's so simple. Take a look at our life. Take a look at everything that has appeared. Take a look at all the people that we've met, all the relationships we've had, all the work that we've done, all the supposed failures, all of the breakthroughs, and just look at what, if you were looking from the outside at 747 and looking towards your life, or you're looking at a movie, you're like watching your life is like a movie or a book or a plot in a play. What has life prepared you for? What has life taught you? How has life perfectly molded you? You don't have to get the complete answers, but if you begin to ask questions, the key to life is in questions, not in answers. So much of Western culture and all that we've been taught is to find answers, is to find answers and get the right answer, and this is the answer, and then that's it, done. But life is all about questions. The quest the eye is on. The quest is to ask bigger questions, ask better questions. One of my teachers said recently, the one reason why people struggle, like in wealth and prosperity, is that they speak in statements instead of speaking in questions. So let's say, I can't afford that as a statement. How could I afford that as a question? I can't do this. How could I do this? So you see the difference is the statement is closed, the question is open. So if we become selfish, we ask the bigger questions. We start to look as like the bigger self. I am part of a grander whole, and I'm going to become selfish and selfless and self-containing, my concentration, my focus, my attention on what part of this magnificent whole have I been prepared to serve. To become selfish in the grandest sense is to take what I have, take what I've been prepared for, take what life has perfectly molded me to bring, and give give it. Firstly, to become selfish, we must give it to ourselves. We must give ourselves, we must question, the quest the eye is on, must question, what has life prepared me for? And every day, what is life preparing me for? What has life given me? So the grandest self. What has life opened to me? What has life given me that it's totally unique? And every moment of your life is completely unique. There might be similar experiences, but they're not the same. So what has life prepared you for? So you ask this grander question and continue to ask questions and continue to ask why, how, where, whom, rather than making statements. I'm not good at this. I cannot do that. This is the way I am. You see, they're all closed statements. When you speak in statements, you close down. When you questions open up, they're open-ended. So to become selfish, we have to ask the grander question: what has the self, the God, the grand design prepared me for? What has all my traumas, my challenges, the continuous themes in my life, what have they shown to me? What do they open? And sometimes it's, because we're too close, the eyes can't see themselves. Sometimes we need someone else to see what we can't see. Not sometimes. We all have blind spots, and others can see in ourselves what we can't see in them. And that's one of the gifts that this one has been given. I'm able to see things in others that they can't see in themselves, and I can't see things in myself that others can see in me. That's how this perfected whole works. But if we ask this bigger question and become selfish in the grandest sense, then we begin that how can we serve this grandest self? What is the tools, what is the gifts, what is the preparation, all of the life experiences prepared me to give my gifts to the whole? How has it opened me? What is the potentials that are so unique to me that if I were to not do that or give that, it couldn't come in any other way. So we really have to become selfish. We have to ask the questions within ourselves. We have to continually question, why am I doing what am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I focusing on what I'm focused on? Why is this the way? Why did this happen? And if we continue to ask these why questions, the quest the eye is on, the question will open and open and open. If you continue to question, the second we have an answer, we close down reality. When we think we have an answer, the mind wants answers. The ego loves answers. Spiritual ego loves answers and definitions. If we continually question our unquestioned assumptions, it's always open. When we stay on statements and stay on facts, and we limit when we close. So look at the language, become selfish, so self-obsessed with language, and see how many times in a day do I ask open-ended questions, and how many times do I make closed statements, because every closed statement is closing down your potential. And so we don't have to wait like Buckminster Fuller to we think I can't do it anymore, I'm going to kill this body. We don't have to. We don't have to wait until it gets desperate. We don't have to wait until we feel like there's no there's no hope of anything else. I just have to go. If we continuously ask questions, we will get the answers. So it might not come like as dramatically as it did for Buckminster Fuller, a voice in your head stopping you from jumping off a bridge, but it'll come. It'll appear. It'll appear in the words of a song. It'll appear in a video that you hear. It'll appear in a book. It'll appear through a child, or you'll appear through some overheard words. But if we're not in the place of why did the children hold the keys to the kingdom of heaven upon the earth? Just ask, or not even ask, just listen to one that's around 3 to 7. What's their continuous process around that age? They're asking questions all of the time. What is this? How does this work? Why is this way? They continuously question. And what happens is, somewhere around that age, our society closes down the questioning and starts giving closed answers, and stops the curiosity and the imagination, and closes it down to, this is the facts, this is the way it is, and this is how you learn. But if we're in a continuous quest, the quest the eye is on, we continually question, we continue open to, because there's infinite potential. If we're continuing in questions, we continuously open the infinite potentials. The second we make a definition hard and fast, or we think we've got the answer, it's just one answer. But as soon as we close it down to this answer, this is the one answer, this is the truth, we close down infinite potentials into that one limited answer. And just because the whole world and material science agrees that that answer is the answer, question it. This is what the origins of science was mystics, was they continuously questioned reality, and they wanted to show it, and they want to continuously disprove them. Not like modern science, which is just a paid for. It's not all like that, but in general, the big science only works if it's paid for, because it's so expensive and blah blah blah. But if we're and it wants to, it's paid for by someone or something that wants a specific result, whereas true science comes from curiosity, the quest the eye is on, continuously opening. How does this work? Oh, and we've come to a certain answer, but does this work in every circumstance, in every way? And does it work for everyone all of the time? There's a continuous question. So to be selfish in the grandest sense is to be self-obsessed and self-contained and self-focused on how my life has prepared me to serve the biggest self. And your life is not your own. You're not here to live a small life. You're not here to just stay contained within. Life has prepared you to serve this grandest self. And that could be just one person in a lifetime. One word you say to them changes everything. It doesn't matter how that appears, but your life is not your own. Life is. Life is flowing continuously through and as all of us, but we don't have, like, answers want to own. Questions are free. Questions open to potentials. Question answers like constrict and keep something. This is what it is, and questions open up, and wow, there's a new potential, and oh, this looks like this could be an answer, but what if this happened? So we become truly selfish in the grandest sense by continuously questioning our reality, continuously questioning what has my life prepared me for? How can this serve others? How can my story, my treasures, my traumas, how can my gifts, and how can the things that I call failures serve others, serve the whole? We must become selfish. We must become totally 100% selfish in the grandest sense, and our life is perfectly prepared us to be this selfish being that serves the whole continuously, not with answers, not with solutions, but with the continuous quest the eye is on, the question, how can my life serve? How can my existence be of benefit to even one other being in this second? And again, it could be just one being in a whole lifetime that you serve, and that's it. I've connected with these incredible feline beings some years ago, and these beings showed me something that we think of purpose as this grand, huge thing, and a life thing, and it's beautiful. Whatever way it appears, it doesn't matter. But they showed me something like something as simple as looking at. Let's just, I don't know, pick up just a random thing. They just showed me just picking up this thing and contemplating it for them beings could be a lifetime of bliss, contemplating this one thing and questioning this one thing. Now, these are quasi-physical beings. They're not going to be looking like plastic things like this. But the point was, a whole life could be spent in wonder and joy and bliss, contemplating them, what we think is mundane and simple. And that's because they're continuously curious, they're continuously questioning, and what they just live for creation, live for the joy of it. Everything that is experienced is just for joy. It's just for the pure creation of creation itself. We as humans, as the masters of limitations, we forget that, and we speak in statements instead of questions. So the invitation today is to look at where do you speak in statements which close your reality, And where can, if you notice, which I'm sure everyone will, I am like this. This is the way it is. I can't do this. I can't do that. This is not for me. Those are all closed statements. Where can we find the question? How could I do this? What would happen if I tried this? If you flip all statements into questions, we open the limitless potential of reality that is always ever giving and ever living through and as us, but that we close with statements. We limit, just for temporarily, we limit for this body the possibilities. So if Buckminster Fuller had went ahead and jumped off the bridge and killed his body, we would never got the opportunity to sit in a geodesic dome. Maybe some, but he was divinely designed because this voice in his head, which he had no experience of before, said, your life is not your own. All of your life has prepared you, again, I'm paraphrasing, prepared you to serve the whole. Now go be it. Go do it. He had this renewed life, and he started questioning, and he started seeing that everything in his life had prepared him perfectly for it. But we don't have to wait till we get to this rock bottom where we want to end it all. Many of us have. I know this one has, but we don't have to. We can begin today and start to ask questions that open up potentials. Every question opens a potential. A question is always open-ended. A statement closes down. So if I am this way, I was born this way, I have these sorts of genes, I'm born in this place, I've got this job, I've got this relationship, whatever it has to be, just all of those are closed statements. And because we are the master of our ship, when we make a statement, it's a statement of what we call fact, then it's so. And then it self-perpetuates itself, and then someone else will agree with that statement of fact, and then it becomes so. When we ask a question, we're forced to open. We have to ask, when we ask questions that we don't immediately know the answers, we open the box of creation to give us multiple potentials. When we close down with statement, we limit the limitless, and then we, at 2222, then our reality must stay with that statement. So I am unhappy will self-perpetuate itself. I am unfulfilled in my work or life or relationships. That will happen. It will continue. The universe is just like a big copying machine. It'll agree. It doesn't matter what your statement is. It will agree. If you say a statement, it will agree. So it's like the wanting. I want a new job. Okay. Universe says, okay, let's give you the experience of wanting a new job. I want to be more of this or that. Okay. Universe says, okay, here is the experience of continuously wanting more of this. So we make those statements. The universe gives us exactly what it is. So if we are in a question, how could I be more fulfilled in my work and relationship? Boom. Infinite potential is opened instantly. How could I look at this challenging circumstance in a different way? Instead of, I'm per me, I'm a victim, this always happens to me. How could this serve me, and how could this challenging circumstance that I have serve other people? How could I choose to reframe this circumstance in a different way? How could I move from making statements into to asking questions? Because the statements will constrict and confirm your statement. Questions will open up infinite possibilities. So if we're continuously on that quest of asking questions, we become truly selfish. We become because the self has every question and every answer. The small self, like the little me, being selfish and thinking it's a little separate me and trying to do things for me, that makes statements. I'm a poor me, I'm a little me, I need to get my piece of the puzzle, I need to look after me. That's the small selfish. But the grand selfish is, I am part of this whole that I don't have to understand or know, but if I ask questions, this whole thing will begin to feed me, and the abundance and the prosperity and the wealth and the joy and the love and the health and the vitality and the creativity and the openness will flood through my life through questions. and everything will shut down and constrict and stop when I make statements. When I make absolute statements, the whole of life will shut down, because the statement creates through its own kind. It creates the experience of it in your reality. So life has prepared you perfectly to serve the whole as a selfish being, a you selfish little brat. Selfish, selfish, selfish in the grandest sense. So life, and your life is not your own. Your life is not your own. It's not your little small life. You don't get to make that decision. You get to limit that, but life is, and the fullness of life is flowing through you. We open it up by asking questions, we close it down by making statements. But life has prepared you perfectly. Life has given you endless gifts that we call failures and traumas and loss, and every single one of them has prepared you to give a gift to the other in the selfish sense. The grandest self, the whole part of the self, has prepared all its parts to give to itself, to be completely selfish, to give to itself. And that grand self has infinite parts, and it appears as bodies and animals and worlds. And we must become selfish in the grandest sense to give back to the self, give our life back to self. And by focusing on questioning ourselves, continuously questioning ourselves, and no longer shooting on ourselves or should do this and must do this, it's like asking a question: how could I reframe this? How could I see my life in a different light? How could I ask a question to someone else if I can't see my life in a different way myself? Who could I ask that may be able to see this differently? Who could I be with that will give me a different reflection of who I am and what my life is about? What would I do today if I knew I am not my story? What would I focus on now if I knew I was part of a complete whole, and that my life has so perfectly prepared me for something that I don't know? Who could help me see that? Or what would I do today if I knew that? If I knew that without knowing the outcome? If I were to jump and not knowing there was something to catch me, how would that feel? If I was to open my heart where I've closed it before, what would happen? If I was to continue to make statements and then question, why do I make those statements? Question, what happened that made me speak in statements rather than the genius of the child's questions? And then when I find that answer, then I ask the question again: why am I still allowing that thing that happened to force me to stay in statements? Why? Why am I still living out my story? Why am I letting something that happened 35 years ago influence this now? I'm 44 years old. Why does something 25 years ago make a difference to this now? Why? It's the why. The answer is, we don't want to stay in the answer, but the answer is because I choose it to be. Why would I choose that to be? Because it serves me in some way. Why does it serve me in some way? Because in some way I get an identity because of that. And why do I want an identity? Because I have lost my self identity. And why have I lost my self identity? Because I forgot I'm part of a unique whole self being. And then when you get there, there's nowhere else to go. Okay, I'm part of this whole, so what am I going to make this mean now? What am I going to do with this? How am I going to turn my trauma into treasure? How am I going to become the aspect of self? How? And you don't, I don't know the word for this. I was trying to look for this before. So a rhetorical question is, you ask a question that you're wanting an answer for. I think that's what that means. But these are questions that you don't necessarily want an answer. An answer can appear, but you're not asking the question to find a definite answer. You're asking a question for infinite answers to appear. And then you can choose one, and then you question again, and then you can choose one, and it's not like, what is the purpose of my life? And then you're just going to be presented on a plate, ABC, 1, 2, 3. It's not that. We have to get out of that linear way of thinking and being. We're asking a question to open a potential, not to find an answer. I wonder, is there a word in the English language? If anyone's watching live or you're watching on, if you're a time travel, put it in the comments. Is there something in the English language where there is a question that I can probably imagine there probably isn't. There's probably in Sanskrit or something like these. It's like a question. You're asking a question, but not to get an answer. It's like it's an open-ended. It starts with a question, like it's a curiosity or something that you're opening as open to potentials. Whereas the statement, "I am 44-year-old man sitting in a car," whatever, that's just closed. There's nowhere to go from that. Whereas, how can I see differently the circumstance that I'm currently in? What is appearing in front of me now got to do with anything? Or how can I choose to look at this? I wonder, is this, I'm in a circumstance with another being. I wonder, does that other person see this the way I see? We make a statement. I assume that in a relationship, what I'm experiencing, the other is experiencing. Statement. I wonder what they're really experiencing. I wonder, can I actually even feel what they feel? And if we really contemplate that, we could see that it's going to come to a slight statement here, but we can't experience something exactly as the other, because in this selfish thing, the grand self has prepared the pieces of itself uniquely. So it can have shared experiences, but none of them are exactly the same. So whenever we share an experience with someone, we think it's one way, they will experience it in a completely other way. And because that is a statement, how can I begin to experience my interactions and relationships from another perspective that may be similar to what that other may be experiencing, but is also different to what I've assumed that it was before, because I made a statement. This is the way it is. This is what happens. This is what I feel. So this is what is. And this other will experience it that way. So you see the way questions open it up and statements close it down. So be selfish. The grandest sense of selfish. Recognize, question your way to the most selfish being that you can be. Ask questions till it comes back to, I'm part of this grandest self, and there's pieces of this self that are perfectly prepared to play their role of this self, and each of them are in service to the whole self. And that's how we're becoming selfish. We are part of this one self that is here to serve itself, and there's nothing existent outside of it. So it's not the small me selfish, which believes itself to be separate, and it needs to get what it's missing. It needs to hoard. It needs to, hold. We become selfish by questioning our way to, I am part of this unlimited whole, and my life is not my own, but life has prepared me perfectly as this piece of this grandest self to serve the other parts of this perfect whole. How can I serve today? How can I be selfish today by seeing that every being that I meet is a part of me, and I am here to serve them in some way? How would I like to be served? How would I like to be held? How would I like to be seen? How would I like to be heard by all of these other parts of this one perfected self today? How do I want to be seen? Okay, then I'll see someone in that way. What what is it that I would want from my partner or from my world or from my work? And then start to give that to your partner, give it to your work, give it to the circumstance. When we ask the question, what is it that I would want, or what is it that I would like to see? Instead of waiting for someone to give that to us, give it to the world. Be selfish. Give what it is we wish to see. Be what we wish to see. But we get to that by a question. How would I be in relationship if my relationship was perfect? How would I be in my work if my work was fulfilling? And then start to be that. How would I be if I knew I was infinite abundance and prosperity? And then start to be that and give that. The fastest way to experience something that you want is to give it to another. So whatever you want, give it to someone else. Whatever you want, give it away. Whatever you think you're missing, give it. That's how to be completely selfish. Capital SALF. Ask the questions, the quest the eye is on. Find out what you want, find out what your life has prepared you for, and start giving it to others. This is how to be selfish in the grandest sense. Good morning, Steph. Let's see. Morning, Heather. Morning, Katrina. Morning, Nikki. So, this has been Be Selfish. The quest the eye is on. Continuously question instead of make statements. Whenever you question yourself back to the self that you are, the grandest self that we are, see and ask. See again, see is kind of looking for an answer. And if anyone has found that definition, does it exist? A question that doesn't have an answer? A question that's not looking for an answer? Continuously question without looking for a definite answer. Question, oh, it takes me down here. This is like, again, the children. When you give them an answer to the question, they keep finding new questions or new ways of asking it because they're continuously curious and they're continuously conscious that they're part of this exciting, magnificent thing. And then when we somewhere in those ages, we start to lose that. Most of us start to lose that. We stop questioning. We settle on statements, and our statements, the statements that we settle on, will settle us into a stuck place. This statement is true, this will be my reality. And your statement will self-perpetuate because it's self-replicating, and it will it will agree with itself. And then you get others to agree with you, and then that's it. That's the way it is. Where can you bring questions where you've been making statements? Where can you question your unquestioned assumptions? Where can you see that your life, how can you ask, or if you can't see it yourself, who can you ask to look at your life and say, look, this has happened. This has prepared you to serve in this way. This has not happened, so this gives you now this potential. This, from one perspective, looks so difficult and challenging, and from another perspective, this gives you such strength, such wisdom, such empathy. Who can you speak to that can see things differently and won't focus and stay on statements that will continuously keep you in your question? The quest the eye is on, the question. Who can mirror me, reflect me in a way that others can't? Where can I go to be with others who ask questions instead of make statements? At 747-3747. And I think most importantly, how can I have more fun in life? How can I make the seeming drudgery, how can I bring laughter? How can I bring joy? How can I see that none of this is serious unless I make it be? How can I bring more playfulness? How can I bring excitement again? Where can I bring this spark, this joy, this juice back into life? Where am I called to see things differently, share them differently, be different? What has my life prepared me for? And what am I going to make that mean? And what do I choose to do about that today? Do I choose to continue stay with the statements of little me and poor me and my life is this and that and I can't do this, I can't do that, and it's because of this and it's because of that, and something happened 25 years ago is continuously flooding my now? Or do we choose to say, how could I make this be my greatest strength? How could I use this to serve others? How could I show others through my own unique way, my own unique gift? And it doesn't matter how that appears. How am I here to serve? How am I here to be selfish? How can I be the self serving itself through the appearance of all these perfected pieces called people and words? That is Be Selfish. Have more fun, find more joy, ask how can I bring fun, joy, lightness, playfulness into this life, especially into what appears serious, and stay with the question. Write out or just recognize where you speak in statements and turn them into questions and see what it opens up. This one's going to do it today. And yes, Thank you for joining. Thank you for being. Thank you for being selfish. So let's go be totally selfish today in every way and ask the questions and continuously to be the quest the eye is on. Until next time, from my heart to yours, the divine in me sees, loves, and honors the divine in you. Namaste. We are